So I could tell you right now, you know, that these chords right here and also right here are no, right here. Yeah, just the first five chords are all in the key of A flat. And I could tell you that these chords right here are in the key of C. I could tell you, you know, that these five chords here are in the key of E flat, and then these chords are in the key of G, and keep going. But you might already know that. And what you really want to know is how I figure that out. And how do I figure it out super quick? So, three tricks to do this kind of thing really fast. Trick number one is sort of obvious, but I'm going to give you a way to kind of think about it that I think is helpful, and that's looking at 2/5s and 2/5/1 progressions. This chord progression and many other jazz standards has a lot of 2/5s and 2/5/1s. So, how to spot those really quickly? Well, if you see a minor 7 chord followed by a dominant 7 chord followed by a major 7 chord, a light bulb should go off saying in your brain that's probably a 2/5/1. Or if you see a minor 7 followed by a dominant 7, that's probably a 2/5. So right off the bat, you should be able to spot probable 2/5s. There's a you could tell there's a probable 2/5 right here, 2/5/1. You know, we have minor 7, dominant 7, major. There's a probable 2/5 right here, right? We have minor 7, dominant 7, major. There's a probable 2/5 right here, 2/5/1, minor 7, dominant 7, major. But are those actual 2/5s and 2/5/1s? Well, the way to confirm that is by making sure that those are fourths, separated by fourths. So are these chords separated by a fourth? Yes. Are these chords separated by a fourth? Yes. Are these chords separated by fourths? Yes. Are these chords separated by fourths? Yes. So that's the part that might take a little bit longer, but like most of the time when you see a minor 7, a dominant 7, and a major 7, most of the time they will be separated by fourths, and that will be a 2/5. But a minor 2/5 is when you have a minor 7 flat 5 followed by a dominant 7 chord followed by a minor chord. That would be a minor 2/5/1. So similarly, if you see minor 7 flat 5 followed by dominant 7, you can think that's a probable minor 2/5, and then just confirm that it moves up by fourths. Trick number 2 is also having to do with fourths, but it's when you see the same quality. Got a bug in here. It's when you see the same quality on two different chords in a row. So examples of that, there's a lot of this in here. So from here to here, we have two different chords, and they're both major 7 chords. So you can think when you see that those are probably like 1 and 4 if it's a major key, or 3 and 6 if it's minor. So you can think that those are probably in the key. You can probably use that first scale over both of them. When you see the same chord quality, these are both major 7 chords, if they're separated by fourths. So again, it's really useful to be able to recognize fourth intervals. So if they're separated by a fourth and they're the same quality, you can probably use that scale over both chords. And in this case, yes, you have the same chord quality. Are they separated by a fourth? Yes. What about down here? We have a major 7 and another major 7. So you could probably use this scale over both of them. Are they separated by a fourth? Yes. So that is correct. Another one down here. Same chord quality. Are they separated by a fourth? Yes. Those are just the majors. What about minor? Same exact thing. You can use the same exact trick. So, yeah, and there's right off the bat, first two chords. We have two chords, and they're both minor 7. So can you use, can you use this minor scale over both of these chords? Well, yes. How do you check that to confirm is, are they separated by a fourth? And yes, they are separated by a fourth. So when you see two major chords, the same, two major 7 chords in a row, or you see two minor 7 chords in a row, check if they're separated by a fourth. And if they are, you can use the same scale, the first one, over both chords. Now, the last trick that I was going to show you, there may not actually be any examples of this in here, but it's also very useful, so I'm just going to tell you. If you see a minor, if you see two minor chords in a row, like two minor 7 chords in a row, and they're separated by a whole step, not a fourth, then that is, you could think of that as basically being like Dorian for the first chord, and use that scale over both chords. So why is that? Because when you have two minor 7 chords in a row and they're separated by a whole step, that's probably the 2 and 3 chords of a major key, or maybe if you're in a minor key, then that would be the 4 and 5 chords. Normally a 5 is dominant 7, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a minor 7 in a minor key. I mean, by doing that, you can, for this chord progression, you could literally tie all these. I'm trying to think, like, so you can use, so these are minor chords separated by a fourth. This is a 2, 5, 1. So right off, and then this is major 7 chords separated by a fourth. So right, just this first 5 chords, you just by using those tricks, you can identify that these are all the same key. And then same here, this is a 2, 5, 1 in C major. And then we go to the and then we do the whole thing basically in a different key. So we have these are separated by a fourth. So you know that you can use the same scale for both, and that this is a 2, 5, 1. So you can use the same scale for all of those, and then that these are separated by a fourth, same quality, so you can continue using the same scale all the way to there. So by using these 3 tricks, you can identify all the scales you can use for here, and then we can keep going because this is a 2, 5. And then we have another 2, 5 in G. So you can keep going and just using these tricks. And then again, this is like a minor 2, 5, but instead of resolving to a minor key, just got to watch out, you're resolving to a major key. So in this case, you have individual chords that kind of stand on their own. You can't really use those scales for any of the surrounding chords. So you have to make sure you play some major here, make sure you play some dominant 7 here. And then you're back to being able to use scales again for multiple chords. This is kind of similar to the beginning. 2 minor 7 chords separated by a fourth. 2, 5, 1. And then 2 major 7 chords separated by a fourth. So you know you can use the same scale for all these. And then you have some individual chords that don't really fall into any scales that are in the chords around them. So just make sure you treat those chords individually. And then we end with a 2, 5, 1 in major. And look at that. We have a 2, 5, 1 in minor from the beginning from the end to the beginning. This is a minor 2, 5, 1. That's really the only minor 2, 5 that we have here. So again, those 3 tricks are look for 2, 5, 1s or 2, 5s. Look for the same chord quality being separated by a fourth, and look for minor chords that are separated by a whole step, because that's also a really common one. And if you know those 3 tricks, that's like, okay, you'll find some stuff that you can't necessarily analyze right off the bat, but just using those 3 tricks, you can analyze so many chord progressions, especially standards. A lot of bebop, especially. So I'm going to try to keep it simple, and I'm going to try to improvise here just using those concepts that we talked about. So I'm going to try not to do a bunch of other stuff, just to demonstrate how much you can do with just this concept alone of being able to quickly identify key centers. Just by doing this, you can do a lot of really great improvising, even without doing a bunch of other fancy stuff. So at the very beginning there, I did do something that was not just the scale, but mostly that was all just using the scales and nothing else. So very powerful.